All right, let's try this again. Thank you for those who alerted me to the sound problem. I hope it's better. We'll see. I could not find any reason that it would be giving a lot of feedback, so I just sort of did the old IT guy thing and just kind of unplugged everything and plugged it back in, and we'll see if it's better. So we were just about to head into the numbers. First of all, one number that I don't like that I want to mention. It's so weird and really annoying. And what would I do without you guys telling me that the sound was bad to start over? Because literally I didn't do anything different. I like unplugged it and plugged it back in. Great. Good deal. We're good. Thank you so much for everybody. So one number that I don't like at all, I mentioned this a couple days ago, that we were going to start getting race data about the vaccines. Okay. And Dane County let us know that we'd have it next week. And they actually got it to us early, which is good. DHS at the state level has said that they hope to get it to us soon, but they couldn't say when exactly. Dane County started reporting it today, and it is unsurprisingly not good at all. I honestly expected Dane County to be a little bit better, but it really isn't. Sorry, I'm going to make sure I have this right. The Black people in Dane County make up about 7% of the population, maybe a little bit less than 7%. And as do Latinos. Latino people make up about 7% of the population here in Dane County. Right now, Hispanic people make up 2.5% of those who've been vaccinated. So they're very underrepresented among the people who've been vaccinated. And I just want to make sure I have this right, because Black people are very close to that, and I just want to make sure that I have the number correct for you. 2.6% of Black people, of those who've been vaccinated, are Black. Now, when it comes to ethnicity, Hispanic versus non-Hispanic, 15% of the people, they don't know whether they're Hispanic or not. So that 2.5% could be slightly better, could be slightly worse. 14% of people, they don't have race identified. 3% of those who've been vaccinated are Asian American, which is actually pretty close to their Asian American share of the population in Dane County. And American Indian, indigenous people, they say AI, American Indian, that should be indigenous, are about 0.5% of those who've been vaccinated, and they're about 1% of the population in Dane County, so they're a little bit underrepresented as well. But the Black and Latino populations, really, really underrepresented. Just the same way they were very overrepresented in the cases and the deaths, right? This is bad news. Obviously, this is a access issue. It's an information issue. There's a lot of factors that go into this. So nobody's purposely saying, don't give this vaccine to Black people, but also we should mention that the people who've been vaccinated are a pretty limited set of people right now. Right? It's healthcare providers. It's that sort of that 1A tier and some of the 1B, and then like lots of people over 65, So hoping that that disparity dissipates eventually. But we'll keep an eye on it. And it's very good. I'm very glad that Dane County, Public Health Madison-Dane County, is making that data available so that we can know that it's bad and we can watch it, hopefully get better. So let's talk about today's numbers. We had a nice, good day of testing yesterday. We had almost 9,200 tests yesterday. Today we're back down to 3,700. So that's not great. Of those 3,700 tests, 1,266 were positive. So that's about 1 out of 3 were positive today. That's not great. What is great, that 1 day number, don't put a lot of stock in that, just because those 3,700 tests weren't all done today. They were done over the past few days. And when you actually, attribute them to the correct day, and then you look at all the people who were tested over the past 7 days, 18.7% of the people tested in the past 7 days tested positive. Okay. That's still a high number. It was 19.4 yesterday. So that went down a lot. And of all tests, once you look at all the tests that were done in the past 7 days, including people who were tested multiple times, 4.7% of tests were positive. I'm very excited about that number, and I hope it doesn't go back up. Yesterday it was 4.9. Before that it was 5.2. It was that number. That's kind of the key number to me. That's the number that a lot of policymakers look at. Okay, if you remember, like when New York opened schools, they said if the positive test rate gets back up to 3, we have to close schools again. So 3 is kind of a magic number. So if we can continue where we're going, if we all keep doing what we're doing, stay vigilant, keep your mask on, keep your distance, stay home if you can. That'll get down to 3 eventually, and then we can, we can't just open everything back up again, or it'll go back up. But we can kind of breathe a sigh of relief that things seem to be under control and might be able to actually loosen things a little bit. From a personal choice perspective, obviously everything's pretty much open at the state level anyway. We are also reporting 28 fatalities today, which 28 people died or were reported to have died today. They didn't die today. These are reports that have come in today from fatalities over the past 4 weeks, probably. But what that does tell us is that the average of the past 7 days of deaths reported is 23, that's the lowest that's been in a long time. So again, even though all these numbers are high, we're still, all these numbers were still above where we were in like June, middle of June, when everything was much better. We were below 3 for the positive test rate back in June. So all these numbers are high, but they're trending downward. We're headed back toward where we were in June. So that's great. So I'm a little bit optimistic. Okay. If the legislature succeeds in getting rid of the mask mandate, I would hope people would continue to wear masks anyway. We'll have to see what happens. But I would hope that voluntarily we'll just keep doing what we're doing until everybody is vaccinated. Speaking of vaccinations, let's talk about that for just a second. We talked a little bit about the racial disparities, but we did take a big jump forward in vaccines completed. And I wonder if the way I'm looking at this now, it's looking like this is having the same reporting issue that some other numbers are, where things are not getting reported right away. So there's kind of a catch up, because right now we have 143,610 people have completed their vaccine. That's 26,000 more than yesterday. So I don't know if we actually did 26,000 vaccines in the past 24 hours, or if we've just caught up on the data. Does that make sense? Either way, it's good news. Because now we have just over 3.5% of the adult population vaccinated. So it's still got a ways to go. We got to get that to like 75, 80%. But if that daily vaccination number keeps growing like this, we'll get there, right? Now we also have 690,000 doses that have been given. That's 77,000 more than yesterday. So let me do a little bit of math for you here a second. So that means we have about 400,000 people who've gotten that first shot and are waiting for the second. Okay, I feel like that's progress. I don't know, especially if we can get another couple of days of 26,000 at a day, then we will make progress. Now, we also know that vaccination data apparently is not going to be reported over the weekends at all. So we'll see if they do, but we'll get, Monday we'll get another update on that. So that, I think, is pretty much the COVID situation. We're going to take a short pause. Stay with us. I have a really great guests. We're talking about big investment in Black and Latino owned businesses. Stay where you are. We'll be right back. And we are back, and joining the program today, BMO Harris Bank Director of Economic Equity, Mr. Anthony Hudson, and the Director of the Economic Equity Advisory Group, Raquel Femanowicz. Thank you for joining the program today, you two.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we're here today to talk about the BMO Empower program, which is a new thing, a big thing that you guys announced not too long ago. So, come on, you just tell us what that is.
Yeah, you bet. So in November, Robert, here at BMO, we launched a $5 billion 5-year initiative that really focuses on how we plan to support minority communities, families, and minority-owned businesses. And so we believe that in this time of need, it was important for us to double down our efforts. We are no stranger to building collaborative relationships with the communities that we serve, but this is our way of being really intentional about doubling down our efforts and combating systemic racism and making a real play on closing that racial wealth gap.
Raquel, how specifically does this combat systemic racism? That's a thing that people have been talking about a lot, over the past year. So what is it about this program that addresses that specifically?
Well, this is a $5 billion 5-year initiative that has lots of tentacles under that umbrella program. What Anthony and I are responsible is on the lending side. So we're being very intentional in seeking out Black and Latinx managed and owned companies where BMO can be a resource in funding their growth, expanding capacity, helping them to create new jobs in communities where it's needed. And we feel like that's our part on the commercial lending side to address some of the systemic racism that has been plaguing communities of color.
Because part of that systemic racism has always been it's been really harder for Black and brown business owners to access capital, right? And so that's kind of one of the barriers you're trying to make it a little lower. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's right. If you think about it like this, in its simplest form, it's how do we create access? It's access to capital, to your point. It's access to a diverse banking team. So having bankers that look like you and willing to meet you where you are. It's access to expertise, and we offer that expertise across 18 industries. It's access to a network. So how are you being introduced to other folks to do what you do, to learn from them, to share best practices? And then how are you being introduced to potentially your next prospect, right? We talk a lot about supplier diversity. A part of our Empower initiative is to drive an additional $500 million in supplier in diverse supplier spend. And so by our ability to connect those dots and truly create access for Black and brown owners, that's how we're going to have a lasting impact in the space.
You said a lot there. That's a lot of things that maybe people wouldn't think about. You think about, I'm going to go to the bank and get a loan, right? But there's a lot more to it than that, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
When you're talking about expansion and job creation, are you thinking, is this for kind of established businesses that are growing, or is this for kind of entrepreneurial startups, or kind of both, or everything in between?
Yeah, I'll let Raquel take that question.
Yeah, we have a two-pronged approach in what we're doing on the lending side. We definitely have a small business line of credit product that's available right now, and it's doing very, very well. It's up to a $50,000 line of credit. And then we are also targeting businesses in the mid-market space of 10 million and over. Okay. So really being intentional and seeking out those companies that are minority owned across our U.S. footprint.
And speaking of that footprint, I know people think of BMO Harris as a very big big corporate bank, but it is really focused kind of right in Milwaukee, Chicago, kind of in Madison, right? This is a pretty, I don't, maybe local is overstating it, but it's around here, right? It's Madison, Milwaukee, Chicago that you're putting this investment into.
Yeah, we're a regional bank, and so
Yeah.
we do serve multiple states. It is fair to say that we have a very deep history, particularly in Chicago and also in Wisconsin. As the largest bank in Wisconsin, and certainly a large player in Chicago, it's our intent to ensure that these communities that we've been in for many years are able to feel this initiative have an impact, positive impact on communities, families, and businesses.
Now I understand also in these particular, pandemic times, a lot of businesses need a little bit of extra help that they wouldn't even normally need, and that you're hoping to offer some assistance through the next round of the PPP program from the federal government. Is that right?
That's right. Raquel has done great work for us. Particularly took some action in terms of how we make information available to minority owners. That's very different than, say, a year ago. And so, Raquel, maybe you can share just a little bit on what you did last month, particularly around this third round of PPP.
Yeah, sure. So as Congress was approving the latest Paycheck Protection Program stimulus package, we were busy at work building out a webinar, getting things ready. We authored a thought leadership article that we posted to our website for businesses to know the things that they need to know now to get ready for that PPP coming down the pike. So that webinar was aired and it was shared with hundreds of nonprofit partners in the small business development nonprofit realm in both Chicago and Milwaukee. And we made sure that our branches and our branch network of folks knew what was coming down the pike and had all the tools necessary to service clients as they heard the webinar, read the thought leadership article, and started taking action to help their business.
Yeah, I understand that the first round, at least, maybe both of the first two rounds of that Paycheck Protection Program did not really go real well for people of color in business. Do you know what went wrong and what are we doing differently this time?
Yeah, I will go back to one of my earlier responses, Robert, just around having access, right?
Oh,
so
sure.
One of the things that we heard from minority owners is that they didn't have a trusted banking relationship in place when the first round went live. And that was a requirement, is that you had to have an established banking relationship. Well, if I haven't had that up to that point, and now I'm scrambling and trying to access these funds to keep my doors open, it is a real issue, right? And so what we wanted to do this time around, and we've been working on this for months, is how do we reach out to minority owners in a very intentional manner and begin to build those relationships and meeting where they are and understanding their goals, understanding the business, understanding them and their employees, and then figuring out a way to really help them through this difficult time. So being able to provide that education through the banking lens is a key part of this. And as Raquel said, we're working hard, whether it be through the webinar, the thought leadership article recently published, to touch minority owners a bit differently than we have in the past.
And so how do people connect with this, either if they're looking for PPP help or if they're just looking for business investment? Who do they call? Can they just go to their local branch, or is there a website for this particular initiative?
Yeah, there's three different channels that I'll share here. So one, certainly your local branch is open and ready to discuss a banking relationship or PPP with you. Two, we certainly have an outlet through our website. So just bmoharris.com, and on the landing page, you'll see an icon there for BMO Empower. If you click that, that will take you to, as Raquel said, the entire initiative end to end, and how we plan to make investments and lend in this space over the next 5 years and beyond. The third way that I would say here is, and frankly, Robert, we can work with you to figure this out, is Raquel and I want to make sure that we continue to be very visible, and that if there's something that we can do to help to consult or to assist your listeners at this time, we welcome that conversation.
Raquel, I'll give you the last word. What would you say to a small business owner who maybe hasn't been real involved with banking or doesn't have a big corporate bank relationship? What's the one or two things that you would say to them that would convince them to come into a BMO bank or to stop by your website?
Yeah, I would say to just reach out. We are here to help. We've got Spanish speaking bankers. I'm a resource on that too. We want to help small business thrive in this pandemic, and it's part of our economic recovery. So we just want to get the word out. We don't want small businesses to be on the sidelines of this latest round of stimulus funding, because it's a make it or break it time for a lot of businesses right now. And BMO, it wants to be a leader in this space, and we're here to help. So I just want everybody to know that reach out and we'll put you in touch with the right people to get you the funds that you need.
Good deal. Well, Raquel Fermanowitz, Anthony Hudson from BMO Harris Bank, I really appreciate you joining the show today.
Thanks, Rob.
Oops, thank you to Raquel and Anthony for being with us today. A couple final notes here from the website today. Some news for you. If you take a look at the site today, if you live on the north side of Madison or care about the north side, you have 3 people running for District 18 Alder. Rebecca Kemble there on the left. She's the incumbent. Veronica Figueroa is the center there, and Charles Biazzi on the right. They all took a survey from Northside Planning Council, which is published in the Northside News, and we have a partnership with the Northside News, that's sort of the Northside neighborhood newspaper there. So they allowed us to print those answers. So if you want to know where they stand, this survey was written by the Northside Anti-Racism Group. So it's got that lens. So you'll be an informed voter. We have local elections coming up. February 16th is the primary. April 6th, the top 2 people who get the top 2 numbers of votes go on to the general election, which is April 5th. Also today, we learned that Linda Green, who's a professor in the law school here in Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, will be the first dean of the Michigan State University College of Law. Up until this point, the law school in East Lansing has been an affiliate of Michigan State, but has not been a constituent college of Michigan State University, and that's changing. So that means the administrative structure has to change, and they had to hire a dean for that new MSU College of Law, and they hired Professor Linda Green from the University of Wisconsin. So congrats to her. And finally, I have 2 pieces of soccer news. So if you're not a soccer person, go ahead and log off. But I am. And so here's what we have today. Good news from Fort Madison.
Open room, the shot comes, saved by Zuluaga, still alive, and it's in. Diaz puts it in. Ball played into the middle. Diaz. Here's Christian Diaz. Ahead now for Christian Diaz. Christian Diaz makes a move. The shot saved.
Numbers around him. Toyama looking for a second goal. Puts it on a plenty.
Ryan Reynolds taken away by Christian Diaz, who went to ground. Diaz towards the end line. Cross. Diaz was there. Paulo Jr. for Christian Diaz. Did he stay on side? He did. It's the opening goal for Forward Madison.
Forward Madison today announced that they've re-signed Christian Diaz for a 3rd season, which is surprising to me. This guy's got MLS talent. He had played at the age of 17. He played in the top flight in Mexico for Atlas. Sorry, I couldn't remember where he started Atlas. And he grew up. He's from Guadalajara, Mexico. Grew up in California. Has played mostly right back for Madison for 3 seasons now, and he's a tremendous player. And it sounds like the new head coach's scheme will allow both him on the right and Jiro on the left to really get involved in the attack. So it should be exciting to watch. Congratulations to him, and I, as a fan, am very excited that he's still there. And one other piece of sad soccer news today. I don't want to do that. I want to. Sorry.
Open room. The shot comes safe by.
I don't know why that happened. J.C. Banks, one of the other original forward Madison players, has announced his retirement. He played with Fort Madison for the first 2 seasons. He scored the goal that put them in the playoffs in 2019. He is the son of Jimmy Banks, who in 1990 was the first black man to play for the United States national team. And he did so in the World Cup in Italy. And his father died the day before the first ever Fort Madison home match, which is tremendously sad. He's 30 now, and he has a child of his own. He has a son, and a relatively new toddler-aged kid. And decided it's time to move on. So he is retiring from football, and Fort Madison and Fort Madison fans will definitely miss J.C. Banks. That's all I have for you today. Appreciate you sticking around. Appreciate everybody who told me the sound was bad the first time. And we will be back on Monday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stay warm. It's going to be a brutally cold weekend, so stay in, stay warm. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.
This is 365 Media.